end as well. So first of all, my name is John Andersson, and I'm the Executive Director at Wikimedia Sweden. And with me here on stage, I have Alicia Fagerving, one of our developers. And we are both working very actively in the project Finding GLAMS. But first, let me set the stage a little bit. It is 25th of April 2015. Nepal is hit by a massive earthquake. Around 9,000 people loses their lives, and much of Nepal stopped working for a long period of time. This was a very terrible loss of lives, but it was also a terrible loss of cultural heritage. At this moment in time, suddenly 700 temples, palaces, and museums, they were damaged, and for many of them, there was not much digital information available. In many cases, it was completely non-existent. This all prevented a fast and efficient response, and which led to more damages, more risks, and more problems rebuilding both the physical buildings and structures, but also of the collections. This might come as a bit of a shock for you guys. I know it did for me, but at this point in time, we are lacking a global database of all of the world's libraries, archives, and museums. We don't know where they are located. And to change this is why we've started the project Finding GLAMS. Let me see if I can change this slide here. But before going into the details about the project, I would like to tell you about what we're going to do and what we're doing and what we hope to achieve with it. I would like to just give you a little bit of a background of Wikimedia Sweden's team and what we're doing, and about Wikipedia and Wiki Data, two of the platforms that we are contributing to in this project. Wikimedia Sweden, we're a non-profit organization. We were founded in 2007, and we are working to promote and support free knowledge. We work with most of the cultural heritage sector organizations in Sweden, and we have a tech team that is actively working on growing and supporting the technical support we can give to our partners to help them share their content. And Alicia is one of the developers that are working with that. One of the core platforms we are actively working on is Wikipedia. And with the more than 500 million people that go there every month to search for information, reading 15 billion articles, it is crucial that information there are up to date and well-sourced as possible. And to give a thorough and correct representation of the history and culture of the world, that is, of course, a central piece to provide all the knowledge to the world. And this is something that needs a lot of work. And knowing where the treasures of humanity are located is the first basic step. In support of Wikipedia, we have started a database with facts called Wiki Data. And this currently holds around 59 million items. It is growing very quickly with around 10 million new subjects added in the past year. On this map here, they are shown in pink. But as you can see from this map, not all areas are covered equally. So Wikidata, it contains a lot of information that is not shown on Wikipedia because it's also being used on other places. So the information that we add to Wikidata doesn't necessarily have to be included on Wikipedia. We hope that it will be, in many cases it will be, but it doesn't have to. Wikipedia have already become the most read cultural heritage reference in the world, but it's far from complete. And this is something we hope to address with this project. Currently we have around 50,000 cultural heritage institutions on Wikidata. This is not complete by any terms. And as you can see from this map, I will show you a bit better slide here. This is the map, the same map. As you can see here, it's pretty well covered with institutions. That's the blue dots here. In Europe, in Asia, in North America, and some in Latin America. But we know that this is not a real representation of where the institutions are located across the world. It's not an accurate picture. We know there are millions of libraries across the world that are not on this map, for example. We want to change this. So what we're doing then is working to expand Wikidata with more information through the project Finding GLAMS. And this is a project that we are working in together with both UNESCO, where we want to work with them to find more official data sets. So working with the teams at UNESCO to engage with the different stakeholders across the world, have them provide us information about what data sets they have so we can add that information. We're working with Wikimedia Foundation to develop software to be able to do this in an efficient way. And the whole project is financed and supported with a generous grant from the Swedish Postcode Foundation. GLAMS, as in the Finding GLAMS project, is an acronym for cultural heritage institutions, galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. what is cool with when we bring all this information onto Wikidata about these GLAM institutions, Wikidata is a multilingual platform. So if someone adds a fact about a museum in South Korean, in Korean, it will also become available. That information will become available for me in Swedish as well. So, or any of the 300 languages that Wikidata works in. So not only will this database be unique in size, but it will also be multilingual as default. So the data we have that we know exists is now currently spread out in many, many sources. And what we're doing, we're talking to different governments and volunteers and other actors that might have collected these kind of data sets to try to, and cultural heritage professionals, and trying to bring in this information, collect the metadata about what databases exist even, because we don't even know that. And we're also trying to engage the general public, and this is what Alicia will talk a little bit about, through a campaign. To, even when there is no official data sets, to collect data through crowdsourcing. So I mentioned that we are starting now with an index. So this is kind of the basic research that needs to be done to figure out what is even out there, what is even existing, because no one can tell us that. We've been in contact with IFLA, ICOM, that's the International Federation of Library Association, with the museum equivalent. We have talked with Europeana, we talked with a bunch of players that should know if UNESCO, of course, should know if this exists. No one knows about it. So we figured we start with trying to compile all this data, what is out there, and utilize our great community to help us with this. And we put them in a kind of a master index that we have on Meta now. And the idea here is that we will have really an overview of what data exists and who owns it. We investigate the size of the data set and its scope, and most importantly for us, the copyright status. Because even if there is a data set that exists somewhere in the world, if it's not under a CC0 license, so that can be updated to Wikidata, we have a problem. We cannot include it in our, so it's easily accessible to our platforms. But even if we cannot update it now, or upload it now and integrate it, we can still use this basic information about knowing that it exists to engage with the owners of that data set and start the discussion to see, can we convince them of releasing under a CC0 license so that we can then integrate it into this massive Wikidata database, so to say. So, and this for us this is a service also, not just for Wikimedia Sweden to go out and talk with all of these different database owners, but by providing this kind of index, we hope that we can engage also other Wikimedia affiliates across the world so that they can take ownership and see, okay, well, here in Guatemala, there is a data set. It's under the licensing is unclear. Or it's unfree. Who owns it? What is who should I reach out to convince them about changing it? This is something we think can be a good way of crowdsourcing this work. To be able to do that, of course, as everything we do, we have it open, accessible. This index is not hidden away somewhere, but it's not a spreadsheet that we keep for ourselves. It is on Meta. But we really this is a major part from us. We have worked on this now, just to get the baseline up, but now we really need to start engaging all of the Wikimedia communities across the world to help them to add more information. And we have already now sent out the first email to asking them for help, but we're going to continue that conversation with many, many players and a lot of volunteers now. Currently, we have around 29 countries covered where we know that there are data sets, free or unfree. But we really don't know how many we're missing. We know that a lot of countries do not have any data sets. For example, we're working with the research team in Seattle. They are, in their research project, they are trying to, for the first time, collect information about the libraries in 28 different African states, because they know that they don't have it. They've already done the research that I'm talking about. They've gone out and asked all the governments, and they said, no, we don't have anything. So they are collecting that data now. And that data set is under a CC0 license, because we had a conversation with them in the beginning of their project, and we will be able to upload that. So we're trying to work around in some areas, but so with these 29 data sets, that might be the 29, or the 29 countries, that might be the 29 countries that actually have data sets, or it might be a fraction of it. We don't really know at this point. We have an interesting approach now. We're going to hopefully have an event with UNESCO and the national representations at UNESCO to see if we can have basically ask a question to them. What kind of data sets do you have in your countries? And see if they can send that question home and bring us back that knowledge. So basically, what we're trying to do is creating like this first kind of map or a mapping of what kind of GLAM information even exists in the world. And this is, of course, when we have done that kind of mapping, we need to make that information available to Wiki Data. That means batch uploading the information. That is a lot of work with every individual data sets. It needs a lot of cleaning, and it needs a lot of, handiwork on it. And that's, Alicia is working on a lot of that kind of stuff. Very specialized expertise. So we think this, if we do this right, if we get up good information onto Wikidata, we can actively use that to, improve Wikipedia as well. Because we do see that there is a pretty strong consensus on Wikipedia among the editors that most GLAM institutions, or all GLAM institutions, should have an article. So just knowing that they exist and where they are, that kind of creates the baseline. You know at least what is missing. So you know if we have 100 articles about museums in Russia, and we know there's 1,000, we know 900 are missing suddenly. So they can help us, organize targeted events and activities, writing articles, taking photos of them, something, Wiki loves Monument, but with a GLAM focus, for example. We think, by doing that kind of activities, we can create an interest among the general population for the GLAM institutions, so that they feel that they, are getting engaged with the institutions themselves. And we can also use the data to automatically generate articles and create them in different languages. For example, if there is a language version that have a very small user base, they might want to have it automatically created. We have done similar things on Swedish Wikipedia, where there's been bot-created articles, millions of them actually. We didn't do it. Wikimedia Sweden did not do that project, but we know it's possible to do, and it's something that could be replicated quite easily. So we really think that this, even with a limited, effort from our side, we can make that content quite easily accessible for thousands of readers, tens of thousands of readers, through creating, hundreds of thousands or even millions of articles, if there is an interest from the community to have that done. We will not do it without a specific request from a community, I should say, but it's possible. We also think that it's very interesting that this kind of comprehensive worldwide database, it would be valuable and important for many reasons. I mean, we're aiming as the Wikimedia organizations or Wikipedia's mission is providing the sum of all human knowledge, just not the knowledge about the global north, which is kind of currently, as you saw on the map, that's what we're providing right now. This is a huge problem, right? We also think that by providing this kind of resource, doing this kind of basic work, this really infrastructure that I would have thought would have been tasked to some UN agency 10 years ago. It hasn't happened, but if we have this created, we have a database, a public resource that can be used for education, for citizens, for tourists, and it should be available across the web. So in many forms and including for commercial and websites and apps and these kind of things. And Wikidata kind of already provides that infrastructure, so we don't really need to recreate it, we just need to get it up there. A truly worldwide database that could be an important research tool for academics, because suddenly the information is structured in the same way, so it's more easily handled by them. They can do advanced searches, finding about specific type of GLAM institutions across the world, compare it much more easily. So it will be a very, very useful thing to have. The kind of big data approach to science that more and more researchers are working with. We also know that one of the main issues, as I mentioned, started with my presentation with Nepal, the earthquakes and the natural catastrophes, or the wars and problems that can physically threaten the institutions. Knowing that they exist and where they exist means that help can get there faster. And Wikipedia and the Wikimedia brand is well known. We believe that can be an entry point also to, when we have that information, it will open up doors. We can provide that information when there is the actual need. If there's another earthquake in Nepal and we have this data, if we contact the Red Cross and provide this information, or at an organization that might need it, it's a way forward. We can easily, as the Wikimedia movement, we can reach places where a lot of other organizations couldn't have done because of the partnerships that we do have. And we can also use this kind of to understand for the Wikimedia movement internally. I mean, we do a lot of GLAM partnerships. We do a lot of work together with these institutions, and we wanted to do more. But it's really hard for us currently to figure out which one are we not working with. If we want to work with uploading information about fashion onto our platforms and do a cool project, EU scale, for example, we do not know what fashion museums are out there. At this point in time, it takes a lot of effort just to figure, if you don't know them personally, and then it will just continue going back to the same institutions. If you want to find newer, smaller ones, for example, it's really, really tough. Having this database, I think, will be a resource also for the Wikimedia community just to find new partners and form new, better projects. Oh, sorry. Um, at this point, we are focusing mainly on the description of institutions. That's the red box on the top. Just figuring out where are they located, what is the phone number, what is the website, this kind of basic contact details. You can find a lot of it on Google Maps, but far from all of it. And again, it's not freely accessible. Then it's a commercial product that tracks you. This is something else. But this is what we see it as this kind of description of institution. That's the starting point. There's a number of different other kind of types of information that you can add to make a fuller, more rich picture of what is in an institution. And of course, the aim is to continue building on this. But first, we know, okay, the National Museum of Sweden is located here in Stockholm. Okay, what kind of collections do they have? That's the next step. And that is something we can work with. We still need to kind of figure out how to best structure that. That is not a consensus currently on Wiki Data on how to do that and all type of collections, but it's an interesting next step. However, in parallel already now, we are working on the three bottom ones, the item level metadata, the item level content, and the searchable content. As part of this project, we are investigating how we can add that kind of information in a structured way, and how we can connect that to Wikidata. So the one thing we're currently not really covering in this project is the collection level, but we see that as a kind of a natural continuation for the community to discuss around, and we will be happy to support that work, of course. But this, so it's mainly the red thing so far, but also in parallel a bit of the blue box as well. When it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals, the theme of the conference, as I said, one of the major things is continuing to scientific research when the data is accessible and available. That is the Sustainable Development Goal 9.5. We also think that this project in its current form and how we're doing it and how we're organizing together with our partners, that is in itself will create a lot of partnerships happening. I mean, if we provide this information to Wikimedia communities, for them to actively reach out to GLAM institutions, that is in partnerships across different type of organizations and different type of actors. I also think, I hope that this will be such a valuable resource that GLAM institutions themselves will be using this. If you have a collection at a museum and you feel like you're missing some pieces for your exhibition, if you can figure out who to contact about that, that could be a very valuable tool. I mean, of course, a lot of this knowledge is existing in the specific GLAM institutions, but maybe only if you worked there for a long time, or if you happen to find the notes that someone scribbled down somewhere. If you're new to it, or if you have a new idea for your institution, this might be the way forward for you to kind of access those partners. I also hope that this can help to reduce inequality and access to free knowledge because of the multitude of languages that Wikidata provides. So even if there's a data set in Swedish for Swedish libraries, that is really as accessible for a Swedish-speaking person, or someone that's willing to use translation tools or go learn the language. By providing it through Wikidata, all people can access it. Just want to mention there is a parallel project that is quite similar both in name and scope that have a presentation today. In Alexievich at 12:15, just coming here after. We're working with them, of course. Alicia will take part in that presentation, of that panel, presentation and workshop. But that is the sum of all GLAMS. It is focusing on ingesting and complementing information about heritage institutions on Wikidata, and putting it onto Wikipedia by integrating into the info boxes that are on Wikipedia. So they kind of take it to the next step. When there's on Wikidata, how can we get it to where people actually read it, the general user of Wikipedia, so to say. This has not really been the scope for us. We have tried to get larger quantities of data and just have it available through the platforms. So we have mainly focusing on adding new ones, and we have to kind of target, especially we have an interest for areas that are where the GLAMS institutions might be threatened for different reasons. While they've had a different scoping of geographical areas they're focusing on, which I think is very, very complementary. And like I said, we are also looking a little bit about how the items level, the blue box that I showed before, which the sum of GLAMS is not focusing on. They are only focusing on the first red area, so to say, where the institutions are located and the information there. So so we made some progress in this. We built the infrastructure for the project. We kind of know how the index looks now. We know what to ask from the community. We have started batch uploading some data sets, but we really do have a lot of work to do. And one of the things that we realized, as I said before, we know there are data sets in some countries, but we also know they are completely missing other countries. Or we know that, for example, in Sweden, there is a data set for libraries, but we also know that it's not updated. So how can we make that better? And that is something Alicia will be talking about, because we have a new tool for that. This still, okay, let's change. I think it's off.
Yours? Oh. Thank you, John. The tool is called Monumental, and it's a tool for both exploring and editing data about GLAM institutions on Wiki Data in a more user-friendly way. The main idea behind Monumental is that in order to encourage more people to make their first edits, we should make it as easy as possible for them to know what data is already out there and what should and can be added. And if you've ever edited Wikidata, then you know that's not exactly easy to do in the Wikidata interface. For example, to find all museums in your city, you have to write a Sparkle query. And the thing is, there are a lot of people out there who are really passionate about GLAM institutions, who are interested in databases, and who have the knowledge, the data that is needed to fill in those gaps in knowledge on Wikidata. So our question was, how can we make it easier for those people to contribute? How can we gain and retain new editors and help them cross that technical threshold? And the power of Wikidata is that the data can be displayed and handled in many different ways. You do not necessarily have to use the Wikidata interface. Maybe you could edit it without ever going to Wikidata. And with Monumental, you can, with just one click, find, for example, museums in your location or in another place. For example, here we can see cultural heritage institutions in Paris. There are quite a lot of them. The red markers indicate that that item on Wikidata lacks a photo. So a user knows that this is something they can contribute to. But if you look, for example, at Hanoi, Vietnam, the situation is quite different. And that's not because there are no cultural heritage institutions there. It's simply because not enough people have contributed to Wikidata in this area. And that is a fundamental problem that we are trying to solve. If you look at a specific institution on Monumental, you can see that it combines information and resources from the different Wikimedia projects. You can see that this museum has a lot of pictures on Wikimedia Commons and Wikipedia articles in 20-25 languages. It gives a more complete picture very quickly than just reading a Wikipedia article in one language. And since it highlights all the images from Wikimedia Commons, not only those that are used in Wikipedia articles, then the user can discover new resources and maybe use them. in Wikipedia articles. The biggest advantage, however, for new contributors is that Monumental makes it very easy to start editing. The thing with Wiki Data is that in order to start adding information, you need to be familiar with the different properties and how a specific type of item normally is modeled. New users have to research that. They have to look at a lot of example items, search for documentation before they can start contributing. And Monumental removes that barrier by showing what's missing and makes the gaps in the information visible. For example, here we can see that this item does not have an Instagram username and the collection size of the museum is also missing. Even if the reader doesn't know that information off the top of their head, then they know that this is something they can help with. This is something they can research and add. And when you edit in Monumental, those edits are saved in Wikidata immediately and become part of the global knowledge database. And the user gets the satisfaction of seeing not provided turn into new information. So that is the ambition behind Monumental, to help and nudge people to make that very first edit. And as John mentioned, we will be organizing a global crowdsourcing campaign in October to engage people to add information about GLAM institutions around the world. And we will be targeting GLAM staff because that's the people who have both the interest and the up-to-date relevant information. And we hope that this very simple first step, adding a piece of data with Monumental, will encourage them to learn more about the Wikimedia project and keep contributing. But of course, we cannot run a global campaign alone. This is something that we need your help with. And we would like to work with the global Wikimedia community to share data about cultural institutions in your countries on Wikidata. What we do have is the worldwide audience through the Wikimedia project and the possibility to educate people about cultural heritage. We have the tools and volunteers, but we have many issues. Collecting the data, the information can be spread around a wide range of sources in many languages. We don't have the connections or understanding of cultural heritage institutions around the world. In many instances, the data is difficult to access, even if you know exactly what you're looking for. Well, so why should you participate in this initiative? You will be able to make contacts with GLAMS around the world and with government ministries. This is something that our partner UNESCO can help you with, as we have connections with the UNESCO country delegations. You can get technical support, help in uploading data about GLAMS in your country to Wikidata. We can either assist you in your own projects or we can upload the data ourselves. And you will be able to reuse that data for other projects like Wiki Loves Monuments, improving Wikipedia articles, and so on. You will get valuable experience and skills in using and improving Wikidata. You can get funding from us, as we have a small amount of funding for running events associated with the campaign, especially for user groups in the Global South, because that's an area that we really would like to support and get more data from. And most importantly, you can be part of our international global crowdsourcing campaign and engage your local community in something really, really big. And well, you can work with us in a number of ways. The easiest way right now, since we're already here, you can catch us and talk to us after the presentation. You see the address on Meta for the project, where you can learn more about it and get in contact with us. And apart from GLAMS, we are also interested in other subjects, including other kinds of heritage. We aim to have collected the majority of the data this year. We have all the tools in place. All we need is your help and your data. Thank you so much for coming here and being interested in this project.
So I think we are kind of running out of time, but is there a couple of questions here at the end? Some for clarification or something you want to know more about? Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, I really hope that you will then join us and try to help us both communicate about this campaign, and if you know about specific databases in your countries, share them with us so we can add them and we can start working with them to, if they are under free license, we will be willing and able to technically help you to batch upload them. So please talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I see a waving hand after all. Martin, please. No, so I mean, for the, if I understand the question correctly, if we know how to label both images and the data. Mm.
Mm.
Well, at this point, please add it from. At this point, we have the index is a table where we add information about the links to the data sets and what kind of copyright status that data set has. If we know about it, if it's unknown, we add information about that and we reach out to them and see if they can provide kind of any information around it. I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry. No, it does not. We will.
It's correct.
Yeah. But that is part of it to add, when we do batch uploading of the data sets, that is part of the process also to model what information about the data set as well, of course, for Wiki Data. Yeah. Yeah. I say Beat. So there's it, yeah.
Yeah. In about 10 minutes.